everyone, welcome back to the Library of Parthos. My name is Sarah, and today I am sharing with you 5 of my favorite wintertime reads. Definitely gotta set the mood for this time of year, gotta have the right cozy vibes. And reading about somebody being out in the cold is totally fine. Being out in the cold yourself is not totally fine. And so I want to share some of these books that just make me feel cozy, and I can have that same experience. So let's go ahead and dive into these recommendations for a great winter read. I'm going to start off with this one because I feel like it requires a lot of explanation and also no explanation at all. And my first pick for winter time cozy reads is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book in the ACOTAR series if you've not read it. Here's my take on it. You can read this one in isolation. You don't have to read the first book. I think there's enough of an explanation in here that you're gonna get it. And if you're familiar with ACOTAR, and these are some spoilers, there's quite a difference between the first book and the second. You get comfortable with the characters, you think you know what's going on, and then it all changes. So keep that in mind. I have told people before, like, just skip the first book, honestly, but it's like they're two different things, like the first book by itself and then everything else together. So if you've not read it, check it out. But the reason I picked this is because there is a really cozy, cute cabin scene that's kind of a turning point for the characters in this book, and that is definitely like perfect winter vibes. I love this book so much. It's probably time for a reread for sure. I mean, it's also like winter solstice. There's just a lot wintry in this book. Plot-wise, I don't feel like I need to get into it a ton because it is such a popular series that I think so many people have read, but this is the story of Feyre. She's a human girl who is kind of transported into the world of the Fae, and this is her kind of figuring herself out. That's all I'm gonna say, because I don't want to give any spoilers for the first one, and I really don't want to ruin much of the second one. There's also a novella that comes later in the series, A Court of Frost and Starlight. That's another like honorable mention. That's a good wintertime read as well, but this one is more of the winter vibes that I'm looking for. Next book that gives the winter vibes that I'm looking for is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novak. This is a Rumpelstiltskin-esque retelling. It definitely takes place in a super icy cold world. This is a really great read. It's not a super long book. I think it definitely keeps your attention throughout. There are a lot of different pieces that are kind of put together as you're reading, and it's super enjoyable. If it's any sort of recommendation, my mom, who typically doesn't read the same things that I do, loved this book when I recommended it. So you could take it from her that it's a good read as well. Next winter recommendation is The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. This book really made me fall in love with the writing style of Ava Reid, and so I highly recommend it, especially if you're already a fan of her writing style. This is the story of Evike. She's like the only person in her village who doesn't have powers, and so she's kind of sacrificed, she's offered as a sacrifice, and ends up being able to do a lot more than people originally thought she would. She works very closely with the captain of the Woodsman, who actually turns out to be the prince. And so it's kind of the story of their relationship as they're navigating their different stations and protecting the people that they care about, and also other threats to the world as well. So highly recommend this one. It is a romance book. There's not a ton of romance until like really the very end, honestly, but it is a fun kind of like political book. But I think she's a really strong female character, and I highly recommend it. You'll be cheering her on the entire way, I think. Next wintertime recommendation is The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick. This is, think like Hades and Persephone style story, where we have like the girl who has to go live with the North Wind, who's like this super grumpy, mean god of sorts, and then she kind of slowly thaws his heart as the story progresses, and they have to, you know, he ends up giving up a lot for her when he realizes that he cares for her as well. So this is a really fun story. when I first read this a couple of years ago, I was keeping track because a second book, The West Wind, about the North Wind's brother, was supposed to be coming out, and I waited till the release day, and then I think it got pushed back, and I kind of just lost track of that book. So it might be out, it might not, I'm not sure, but I highly recommend reading this book, especially if you're looking for something in the winter. It's a great book to eat cake with while you're reading it, because I know her favorite food is cake in the story. So definitely recommend checking this one out. And last but not least, I saved my favorite for last, and it's actually a duology, so I have both books. This is Wintersong and Shadowsong by S.J. Jones. Let me tell you about these books, okay? I think I read these before I started doing booktube, so I don't believe I have reviews of them anywhere. But I probably just need to do that because they absolutely deserve the recognition. So think like Goblin Market, the poem by Christina Rossetti. Think that, and also Phantom of the Opera kind of like morphed together in this story. It's such a beautiful, beautiful story. So we have this main character, Elizabeth, who is kind of a plain girl. She's very musically inclined. Her whole family really is. And her sister is taken by the Goblin King as like his next queen. And she's like, no, my sister, it can't be. I have to protect her. It should be me instead. And so she goes on this quest. Also add in like elements of Labyrinth kind of, where the Goblin King says like, if you can find her in time, like you can take her place, and she does. And so it's her kind of uncovering the secrets of this whole goblin world and how it works, how her role as queen works, and the constraints that are placed on all of them, really, the Goblin King included. And so she kind of finds out the secrets in book one, and grows closer to the Goblin King. It's really sweet. In the second book, she has figured out how things work, and she is setting out to make it right, because it's kind of, without giving too much away, it's kind of imbalanced, and it's not the way that things are operating, with the queen kind of being this like source of life for the Goblin Kingdom, is not the way that it was intended. And so she is setting out to make it right while also keeping her family and also trying to rescue the Goblin King. So I so highly recommend these books. I don't see them talked about very often, and I don't think that they get enough credit, but they're so, so, so good. And if the title didn't convince you that it's wintry, I mean, I don't know what will. So those are my 5 wintertime recommendations. I think they're perfect for this time of year, especially if it's a cold, blustery day and you're staring outside at all the snow and thinking about how it's like 19 degrees outside, or like 5 or whatever, just curled up in a nice warm place and just kind of living vicariously through these characters, knowing that you are under a blanket with a cup of coffee or tea or something like that. So if you've read any of these, let's talk about them. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't, I highly recommend that you check them out, especially now in the middle of the winter. So that is the end of this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.